All right, it is another Tuesday. There is no Michael because he's doing real world work things. So, this is the next episode of Gold Horns and Fight Songs. I am your host tonight, Wes, on the Twitters at Painter Bronco. Joining me once again, is our buddy Brent at OMAV's Hockey Fan on the Twitter. He represents the Omaha Mavericks. Feels like it's going to be a sad episode because you and I are a pair of losers on the weekend. And really, unfortunately, because it felt like our two teams controlled their games better than the other two NCHC teams. But we're only down to one NCHC team left in the tournament. So, how overall, other than the result, how was your experience at the regional? I know you made the trip over, up, around, whatever it was. It was like a 3-hour drive one way.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice being able to take a quick drive. We drove up right after I got off work on Thursday. Got up there, I think about an hour before puck drop. It was nice being back in the tournament. It was nice being able to be there at the tournament. Obviously, 2021 we weren't able to go with COVID and everything, but compared to 2015, we made the Frozen Four. Having to go all the way to South Bend. This was really nice, and it was a really fun environment up in Sioux Falls. There was a good, I'd say like 60-40 Minnesota to Omaha fans, but it was a really fun environment. The Omaha, like us Omaha fans, were really rowdy, but I mean Minnesota fans were just as loud when Minnesota scored. But it was a lot of fun. Obviously, the result stings. I don't think anyone really expected us, other than probably everyone, to lose that game after how we played. But, just three really unfortunate bounces that wound up in our goal. Obviously, the game-winning goal, like, it was an unfortunate turnover that they had to convert into, like, a perfect tip-in to get it in. But, it was a lot of fun. Really upsetting having to come home after that, but the last month of hockey has been really fun in Omaha, so it had to come to an end. It was a little early, but can't be more proud of the boys for their effort the last month.
Did you guys? So you only made it for the Omaha Minnesota game, then you didn't see the other one.
No, that one finished on our way. I think we were about an hour out of Omaha when that one finished. I really wanted to go back on Saturday because I wanted to watch BU.
Yeah. How was the overall attendance for your guys' game? Did it seem like a lot of people stuck around from the first one to that second one?
I'm not 100% sure. I know there were definitely limited. I'm sure BU fans made it out for their game. I saw a couple handfuls of BU fans. But for our game, the lower bowl was about 80 to 90% full, and then the upper bowl was about 20% full. Okay. I think the Premier Center can hold about 12,000, 13,000, I would say, and I'd say about 7,000 to 8,000 were there. Just ballpark, obviously, but it was pretty full. Like I said, it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of rowdy fans from both teams, I'll say.
It says hockey can hold 10.
Okay.
10,678. For concerts and basketball, it gets up to 12,000, 13,000. So not too far off on your numbers there.
Yeah, then I'd say about 5,000 to 6,000. Then it was about half full, I think, putting into perspective the upper bowl being mostly empty. But
I think based on what I saw on TV and what I saw at the actual event, Midwest was probably percentage of capacity was probably closest to being full. But it also had, the lowest number that could have been held. And I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't think you're ever gonna see a full arena at one of these games. Like you're just, or, for these regionals, especially if they continue to do it where it's both games at the same spot, hours or whatever apart. Um, because there's people from the other game who just do not care whether they're the first game or the second game. You guys waited until the first game was pretty much over before you left to go to just your game. I stayed. I mean, there was a casino literally like a 5-minute walk from the arena, so I know that like the UND and Michigan people were hanging out at the casino during the Michigan State Western game, like just probably just watching it on TV. And then reverse that, a lot of the people from the Michigan State game, if they had zero interest in who won, like a lot of the Western people, because we were knocked out, they left and they might have gone to the casino, back to the casino or to their hotels and called it a night. And even then, like probably the fullest time was probably the third period of the game, just because you're starting to get people trickling in for the second game and then overtime because they thought their game was going to start earlier than what it did. And then Western seemed to be the most congregated of the four fan groups. Like there were a lot of Michigan State people spread throughout the arena. Michigan, North Dakota, they were all kind of spread out, but Western Michigan was really kind of tucked into the one corner and really congregated there. And then people walking around or watching from up top. But overall, it was the Michigan State Western game was probably one of the better games that I saw all weekend. Both teams played really well, played really hard. Western got up to a 2-goal lead, kind of similar to what happened to Omaha. It was just a couple mistakes ended up in the back of our net and let the other team in it and took advantage of it. And then unfortunately more unlucky puck luck for Cam Rowe, and a puck goes off our own stick and into the back of the net, and we're on the outside of another first round tournament loss. But the experience was awesome. The game was awesome. The second game, that's probably like the most emotionally heavy loss that like I've ever seen as far as Western Michigan goes, and I was just not into wanting to watch hockey. And I'm still like, even when I got home like Saturday, I think I tried watching some of the Denver game and I was like, nah, not ready for hockey yet. I could care less about hockey right now. Like I just wasn't over it. And I ended up meeting Brad Elliott Schlossman, the reporter for the Grand Forks Herald, like right before warm-ups. And he asked me like what I thought about the game, and I was like, Western has to do 3 things. They have to play consistent defense. They have to be really strong offensively, and Cameron Rowe just has to avoid bad puck luck, because I have never seen a goalie who is unlucky as he is. Just absolutely the worst luck I've ever seen for a goalie. And the only thing they did, the only thing they did positively out of those things is the offense showed up and beat a really good goaltender 4 times. They made smart plays. They stayed out of the box. Defense got burned a couple times on the first one. Carter Bruiser kind of took an angle that I wasn't the happiest that he took. I wish he would have just stayed in his lane and went straight north, as opposed to trying to cut the puck off or whatever he was doing, because it allowed the state player behind him and he slips it 5-hole on Cam. The shot off, the face off, nothing Cam could do about that. Didn't even see the puck. And it was a great offensive play. And in fact, we scored a goal similar to that one. I think the 4th goal that Galambos had. So it's like you're 1 for 1 there on those types of goals. And then, just some silly play when the goaltender was out of the state net, let the Michigan State back in it, and no one goes back door, and couple good passes, and it's a tie game with 55 seconds left when you're controlling the game. And It was a heartbreaker, absolute heartbreaker, both for a lot of the fans, and you could see it on the guys on the ice when that one goes in, and then like I said, some terrible puck, like a puck thrown to the net and bounces off your own guy and past your goalie, and that's all she wrote. So Western's 1-9 in first round matchups in the NCAA tournament. We,
Yikes.
we three one and two in the last 3 years. Um, that seems to be the kryptonite. Is just we gotta at some point, and I think we're kind of there now. That the expectation is that we can make the tournament, but we have to figure out how to consistently get out of this first round. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's we're not preparing enough for non-conference play. I mean, we're playing in a conference that just beats the tar out of each other. Uh, the NCHC generally has a really good non-conference record across all teams. Even Miami was more successful in their non-conference record than their in-conference record this year, which was when you only win one conference game, it's not hard to win two
Yeah.
non-conference games, But something we've got to figure out something there. And I think Omaha again, our two teams seem like they controlled their games more so than Denver and North Dakota did. North Dakota scored early. They were actually
Mhm.
threatened on the shorthanded goal before they scored 4-on-4. In fact, it was actually a shorthanded attempt that drew the penalty that gave them 4-on-4, and then a transfer from Lindenwood who had played in that building scored their opening goal. So,
Yeah.
um, oh, that was the other thing, dude. The boards were so weird. If the There were like doors behind the nets, probably for I don't know what they were for. Maybe for
Oh.
putting the nets on and off when they're not using the rink. But it wasn't where the Zambonis came from because they came from down the ice somewhere else. They don't come directly from behind the nets. But if it hit those doors right behind the nets, the puck just stopped and just dropped straight to the ice. So there was not like they weren't very lively. But if you hit the glass, it was going anywhere and everywhere. Um, but no,
Wow.
honestly, it was a good environment, a good spot. A hefty little drive. Like you were definitely staying the night if you were traveling from any of the four schools that were there, unless you were already in the area. Um, but yeah, I think our teams played controlled, like I said, controlled the game the best. They just mistakes bit us both in the butts. Um, North Dakota played pretty well, but Michigan took over that game. The first Denver game was super tight, super back and forth. Not really what we were expecting. Or I think a lot of people expected Denver to struggle with that defense, knowing what we had seen from Denver. Good defensive teams have been able to keep them in check, but honestly, once they got the first goal, I thought they were going to score a lot more, and they just. Uh, but UMass did a great job containing them and limiting their opportunities after that, and forcing it to overtime, and so that was a good one. I mean, all in all, it was. I think it was a great first round. It just there's some results that I wish had gone the other way.
Yeah, for sure. And we almost, for the first time, had all 4 1 seeds make the Frozen Four.
Yeah, Michigan had to go and ruin that. Jerks.
Yeah,
Uh,
they scored, I think it was 7 third period goals over the weekend that led them to St. Paul. That's determination and playing a full 60.
yeah, I mean that's the teams that played full 60s, the teams that capitalized on mistakes versus the teams that made the mistakes are the ones that are continuing to play. Denver just won a trophy in St. Paul. They're going back to try and claim another one. I guess from the standpoint that we want to see more championships in the NCHC, I guess we're rooting for Denver, but it would be really, really nice if it were, an Omaha or a Western or hell, even Colorado College at this point. I'd like to see, one of these other schools put something together and go on a deep run. Um, but I don't know what it is. The same few teams seem to get there and stay there and have it figured out, and other teams are fighting and clawing every year. And not quite making it. So hopefully that turns around here soon. We'll see. I mean, there is a lot of transition going on right now, and that kind of leads us into our next topic with the portal. I think I've seen that it's close to there are over 200 players in the portal currently, or have entered the portal at some point. Um, it only being 3 days of it being 100% open for all players. They're closing in on the total number from last year. Um,
I think last year was 291, and I think the last number I saw was like almost 240 already this year,
yeah,
which
and I mean some of that makes sense. You know, there's a lot of older players around. Um, this is the last year that seniors can get that fifth year. You know, the current 4 year seniors are the guys who have the extra year if they're looking for a new place to play or what have you. So there's quite a few there. As far as the NCHC goes, Colorado College is the one filling up the portal. Most of them being seniors, just because they don't have grad programs at the college out there.
is
But
really unfortunate for them because there's a lot of big names coming out of CC that are
yeah,
they're going to
current
fill some big holes for other teams.
currently in the transfer portal for Colorado College, Chase Foley, who is a defenseman senior, played 32 games, had 16 points. Danny Waite, senior, 6 games played, 1 point. Ray Christie, 7 points, 36 games played. Tyler Coffey, 24 games played, 5 points. Nicholas Andrews, 37 games played, 17 points. He's already committed to Michigan State. Logan Will, 37 games played, 18 points. Uh, Nikolai Cherenchenko, sophomore, did not play this year. He just entered the portal yesterday. Antonio Fernandez, freshman, who played 2 games, also entered the portal yesterday. And kind of a surprising name. Only played 5 games this year, but a name that I feel like I heard a lot maybe last year. But Noah Sardakny entered the portal
Mm.
yesterday. And really, of all of them, I think he was kind of the most surprising name that I had seen for Colorado College after learning that, like, you know, they just don't have programs for these seniors to return for a fifth year too. Um, but yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
I feel like Serdak, he might have gotten hurt or something because yeah, he was definitely. I mean, or maybe just didn't produce as much. But yeah, like you were saying, like
I feel like he was everywhere last year.
yeah,
But you know, Noah Laba, I think no, I think what did I see about him? Did I see something about him? What did he do? There's so much crap to follow between pro signings and years and
yeah,
not that one, this one, even though these guys are slow to update anything. But, I think Noah Laba still has time. I mean, he better.
yeah. He's gonna be a junior, I think. So,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
which
he was a
is
freshman last year, which is kind of scary that he's only going to be a junior, but he is definitely someone that team wants to keep around.
yeah, the best he can.
So it'd be kind of interesting to see how Colorado responds, you know, next year. Just they feel like they're going to be a completely new team. They're losing a lot of leadership, a lot of experience. Um, I believe Mayotte had just done like a TV interview, you know, talking about some forwards they have coming in to kind of replenish that line. But we know in college hockey, like especially going back to the way it was kind of pre-COVID, the most you're going to get out of a guy is 4 years, right? So they're kind of seeing, you know, how do we build a team back to the old ways when we're losing all of our seniors. Um, Western Michigan could see a lot of turnover too. They have zero news coming out. There's zero guys in the transfer portal. Um, Sam Colangelo signed a amateur tryout with the Ducks for the uh, San Diego's Goals, not the Ducks. I mean, they're the Ducks organization, but
Yeah,
he signed with the AHL team. For the rest of the AHL season there, he still has until I think August something to sign an entry level contract or he becomes a free agent. Um, I think that's really the only player I've seen out of Western really with news. Based on the press conference after the tournament, Granger's gone. Um, the grad students will be gone. But that's really not a lot of news has come out one way or the other, or how on anybody other than like I said, Sam signed. Granger kind of made it known that he's done after 4 years based on his responses at the press conference and things of that nature. Couple sign or St. Cloud State, they lose Jack Pert. He signs after his junior season to the Minnesota Wild. Dominic Bassi hit the transfer portal again. He transfers to St. Lawrence. Ben Steves signs after a sophomore year from Minnesota Duluth to the Florida Panthers as a free agent. That's a huge loss for them.
Yeah.
The dude was their entire offense, and now he's out. Who else? And then, North Dakota, we just got news up from North Dakota that Person appears to be looking like he's going to sign a pro deal. They are bringing in transfer goaltender. I'm going to mess up his name if it's not in front of me, and it's not in front of me at the moment. So if you would like to say it, go ahead, because I don't know where the hell.
I believe it is TJ Septemfelter.
Yes. Arizona State goaltender. As Arizona State joins the conference, so that might be another little boost to North Dakota. They get some intel on the new opponent.
And they announced too that four of their top scorers are returning for their fifth year, for the first year in the NCHC.
Oh, look at them.
So
oh yeah, Arizona State. Right.
Yeah, Arizona State.
I thought you were saying North Dakota. I was like, oh.
No, Arizona State announced that.
Reese Gaber signed with the amateur tryout with the Checkers, I believe, the Florida organization. They're starting to put together a nice little crew of NCHC guys there in Charlotte, if that's true. They signed Ryan McAllister last year. They've got Ben Steves and Reese Gaber, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw from that group of folks, was that he was going. Let me just double check and make sure before I keep saying it out loud and then it's wrong and then I don't. Whatever. Come on, where'd you go? I know that you signed for sure. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Twitter, for being the dumbest search possible. Why not let me search things that are currently happening? And where is it? You guys have had a few pro signings as well.
Yeah, we've had two juniors leave. Ty Mueller signed with the Vancouver Canucks, a 3-year deal. And Victor Mancini this morning signed on with the Rangers after his junior year. Otherwise, Nolan Sullivan signed with the Kansas City Mavericks today after his 5 years in Omaha. And Seth Isley yesterday signed with the Calgary Wranglers after his eligibility ran up. He was with Omaha for a year this year.
Not a bad little haul for you guys down there. You guys are losing quite a few guys too, I know.
Yeah, so out of eligibility is Jack Randall, Sullivan, Kirby Proctor, Dom Vidoli, who was a 1-year transfer. Isley, Jesse Lansdale signed a pro contract after his 5th year. He's going down to the Florida Everblades. And then out of the transfer portal, we had Michael Abgral transfer to Holy Cross. And I saw a rumor that Ray Fust transferred to Mankato, but that's not been confirmed yet. But Ray is in the transfer portal. It was a little bit of a surprise to us. Ray made a lot of friends here in Omaha. He was definitely a fan favorite. So to see him kind of test the waters in the transfer portal was a little shocking to say the least. But you know, if that's what you can't can't be like, why are you leaving when?
Right.
So
Uh,
good luck to Ray. Hopefully he finds his home. Certainly he's going to have a lot of fans back at Omaha cheering him on. So
yeah, Denver's still playing, so they don't have anybody in the transfer portal yet. Miami up to 4. They haven't really had anybody since the opening. They had one sophomore since the. Actually, no, they wouldn't. He wouldn't count because they lost their coach. So I think any of their players could have joined at any time. They haven't had anybody
yeah.
join since the full opening. Right now, it's currently Dylan Moulton, a senior, played 34 games. Carter McPhail, backup goalie, who played 2 games. Hampus Rydquist, senior defenseman, who played 36 games. And then Alex Kumlin, sophomore, who played 34 games. Minnesota Duluth, 3 enter the portal. Blake Biondi, who's already signed to Notre Dame. Kyler Clevin and Luke Johnson have also entered the portal. They did so on the 31st, but have not made their new homes known yet. Omaha, as you mentioned, Ray Fuston, Michael Abgrill. He's going to Holy Cross. North Dakota, so far, the only one to have someone transfer in, that being goaltender TJ Stempenfelter, who we mentioned earlier from Arizona State. Michael Emerson played 6 games as a freshman, entered the portal. He's a 6th round pick of Carolina. St. Cloud State, Dominic Bassey is still the only one there, and no news from Western Michigan as of yet. So, anything you want to bring up while I clear my throat real quick?
I don't think so. I thought there was something.
All right.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. Just personally, I think there's still
I mean,
without throwing,
there's some
without throwing
spicy.
names out there. I think we could see a couple more Omaha players hit the portal, depending on on what happens. There's just a couple names that I feel I don't have any intel, obviously, but I feel could hit the portal. Just you know, on my own little matrix or whatever.
Right.
But I feel there could be a couple players still hit the portal from Omaha, and I'm hoping we get a couple big names out of the portal too. I'm sure we will. I mean, Gabs and company have been killing it the last 3 years with that whole thing. We had obviously Jesse Lansdale this year come over from Notre Dame, I believe. Zach Erdahl came over from Wisconsin, had an absolutely fantastic year.
He was so
Uh,
big for you guys.
yeah, and he was he was a initial recruit of Gabs, but he chose to go to Wisconsin, and then obviously we get him back this year. And then we had oh goodness, their names. We had a couple other big names coming from the Big Ten that just had absolutely tremendous years for us. So I'm hoping we get some more of those big names come to Omaha and help push us to the next level and get us back to the Frozen Four.
I don't know if you saw it, but Bruce, what is your last name? Bruce Siski,
Mm.
reporter out of Duluth. He transcribed some of Sandlin's comments about the transfer portal,
Yeah, I read most of that today. That
and
was really good.
yeah, some spicy comments for sure. Um, just the no one knows. The portal's a weird thing, like there's a lot of people who understand and appreciate the idea of the portal and what it represents. Um, there's a lot of unknown to the portal that's kind of meant to be unknown, but also, you know, one of those things that like we'll never completely get full knowledge of just because they don't want it to be that way, or it's hard to follow the lives of 300 college students. And college hockey is so different compared to the other college sports. There's rules pertaining to every other one that seem to, for whatever reason, not exist in college hockey. Basketball, you have to play at least 1 year. Football, you have to play 2 or 3 years. Um, Basketball, you can now enter the draft, but you can't have an agent. You could choose to. You used to be, if you declared for the draft, you couldn't come back to college. NFL, if you declare for the draft, you can't come back to college. Um, Baseball, you could be drafted multiple times and choose not to accept being drafted to come back to college. Hockey, you could be drafted, have an advisor. Uh, your rights are owned by a team. You can talk to that team in the off season, or there's some kind of communication between you and that pro team. Um, Basically, your advisor works like an agent. You can go to pro development camps in the off season. None of these are linked to NIL either. Like, I mean, I'm not talking about making money. I'm literally talking about going and working out with coaches that have your rights for when you're done playing college. Uh, you can be traded by the NHL team while you're still playing college hockey. We saw that happen a couple times in the last few years. Um, it's so like it just college hockey just exists in its own bubble of how much is it like a basically an additional pro team, one step below the ECHL as far as development goes, but play wise, like maybe on par with, or at least product on the ice, like on par with what you see in the ECHL. But it feels like it's so controlled by a pro league that it's not really a college sport, and it gets away with similar, stuff that like the other sports don't get away with. Um, and that was kind of some of the stuff that Sandlin was pointing out to, like, these guys have, again, advisors, which are really agents that are looking at possibilities of potentially looking at possibilities of guys going to other schools the second they commit to one school, or they're talking to the pro team and like, hey, who's a coaching style matches kind of more of what we're doing at the pro level? Okay, is there a way we can get our guy to go play over there? Or well, we have scouts in this area a little more often, maybe we can convince so and so to transfer over, and we could keep an eye on him a little better. Or guys have played against or with each other since Pee-wees, and they're like, hey, come and play at North Dakota, it's a really fun place, we're basically an NHL team, like you should transfer here, before they ever hit the portal. And then there's guys, like there was one player who hadn't even really announced that he was in the portal. At least coaches couldn't see that he was in a portal, and he's already linked to like 4 teams. Like, it's such a mess, and it's something I don't think we're going to get away with. I do believe that the numbers will come down slightly next year without
Oh yeah.
all the fifth year players. And it's a risk to go in the portal. I think RIT came out and said, if you're in the portal, you're no longer on this team, and we're not going to bring you back. Like,
Mhm.
your scholarship is gone, your spot on the team is gone. Like, you better hope another team signs you, because otherwise you're out of college hockey, or you're going down to the ACHA and playing Division 2 or 3. So the risk reward there, has to make sense for these guys. And personally, I think they're making this decision well before the final week of the season. You
Yeah.
know, especially guys who see they're already they're in the portal, and then 24 hours later they're signed at a new spot. Like, they knew what was coming up and what was happening, and they had an idea of where they wanted to go well before they were ever in the portal. And
Yep.
whether some of that is like, the backdoor dealings that Sandlin brings up, of like advisors and pro teams, or a teammate that you had a couple years ago now playing there. Like it's all interesting that we're never really going to see the inside of, because they're supposed to be anonymous when they go in the portal. Like it's only supposed to be the coaches and the players that know, and like maybe the administrators who put them in there. But
Right.
but yet we have, pages, Twitter pages dedicated to it, websites dedicated to it, pretty much
Been
the instant
I've
it
been
happens.
attached to my phone just on on some of the trackers, just looking at it today and
Yeah.
even yesterday, just like, all right, who's in it? Now who's in it? Like,
And honestly, to be one of those people who follows it that closely, like good on you, but who has the time? Like, and my approach has always been like, I think it's cool to know like you got a top prospect coming in. But as we've seen at all levels of sports, just because a guy is the top prospect doesn't mean he's going to make your team any better.
right,
There's a term that floats around pro ranks all the time: a bust. That dude's a bust. He was a top rated player when he came out. You spent that top pick on him, and he didn't fit your team, so now he's a bust. Is that your fault? Is that his fault? Is that just the type of play that you guys play? Like his play style doesn't match yours. Like it's so infinite the number of possibilities that could affect a player. I mean, Jack Eichel played really well in Buffalo, but wasn't getting team results. He goes to Vegas, and now he's a Stanley Cup champion. Look how long it took Alexander Ovechkin to get a cup. Like that dude's rapidly approaching the numbers that Wayne Gretzky put up, and he has one cup to his name because he didn't have a team around him for the longest time. Like there's reasons these are team games, and you can't necessarily say like getting every single best player results in a Stanley Cup championship. I mean, if you're the O2 Red Wings, you can kind of say that, but they also broke the NHL and made it so there's a salary cap.
yeah.
Like it's just like, again, just because you get all these top prospects. What was it? Michigan had like 10 NHL picks or something on their team a couple years ago, and didn't make it out of the first round of the tournament, or like even, or did they lose in the Frozen Four? Maybe they lost in the Frozen Four. That year, like Owen Power and Hughes
Oh
was
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Last year with Fantilli, they don't make it out of the Frozen Four that year either. Um, it's So to me, to look at these prospects or these guys in the transfer portal, yeah, it's cool, and you want to bring some of them in, but I'm really more into just seeing the team that hits the ice, and how the guys play together. Um, who can form a top line like we've had the last 2 years? Who's going to be that new Ethan Frank, Cole Gallant, Drew Orad line that put up over 100 points in college hockey? Who's going to be that Sasson McAllister Poland line that put up 100 straight points, or 100 points in college hockey? Even this year, um, Bump, Granger, and Went played really well together. They kind of mixed those lines up a little bit more, but the ability to build a cohesive line like that from the coaching staff and bring in types of players like that is way more interesting to me than just seeing a lineup stacked with NHL prospects or guys who are drafted, or um, things like that. Like I want to see that on ice product, and a cohesive team that could potentially win some games, and get this Western team to a new level. And I think Omaha kind of builds that way too.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I feel the same. Like, you've got to put a lot of trust in your coaching staff and everything, that they know what they're looking for. And obviously, I mean, um, I think we're getting to a point now in the transfer portal era. I guess you could say is where you you've either built that trust with your fans and your program, that you've gone out and found some of those guys before, so um, you can kind of show like, hey, we don't have this guy who's going in the first round, but we've got this guy who I know is going to fit in with our team and might not have put up numbers, with his old team, but I know he's going to produce here, and we got all the confidence in the world. So, um, I've harped on it before. Like, I mean, Omaha with Gabs. I mean, he's had probably some of the best success with the portal the last few years. Um, so I mean, you've got to build trust. You've had to have built that trust already, um, and you, as a fan and everything, you just got to know that your coaching staff has your best interest, their best interest, like everyone's best interest in mind. If you don't get the top pick, or if you're even not going for the top pick or whatever. Um, and again, it's all built on past relationships too. Um, Erdahl, like I said, Zach Gabs was originally recruiting him, wanted to come to Omaha, didn't, and he entered the transfer portal last year, and we were able to get him. And I know he made a comment about that sometime in the second half. I wish he would have been here the first couple of years of his college career, but we've got him now, and sure enough, he's the player that they always thought he was going to be. So, you know, building that trust, getting your foot in the door with certain players, and maybe you don't get them the first time, maybe you get them the second or third time, and just having the confidence to be able to go out and get them.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said. Like I think there's a lot more guys watching other guys in the league now too. Like I think there's a lot of guys who if their game ends at 7, 8 o'clock on the East Coast, they're watching that NCHC game out on the West Coast that ends at midnight. And they're
Mhm.
seeing like, again, I'm going to go back to Western because Western's the team I follow the closest, but they're watching guys develop like a Granger, like a Frank, like a Poland. Even this year, even though he was only here for 1 year, like Sam Colangelo set all new career highs in points, assists, goals. Like they're watching these guys go to these schools and develop and build on what they have. And it's like it opens their eyes to be like, all right, well, I know tradition was to come to this school, but that school is putting out pro players, and that school is developing guys, and they're hitting marks that we've never seen before, or that they've never seen before. uh Maybe it's worth opening the opportunity to go play there and join that squad, or things of that. I think that's happening too, to be completely honest, and we're seeing that. um I do think that the portal works both ways, and here's the dangerous thing about the college hockey portal more so than in other sports, and maybe basketball it's just as dangerous, but football you have close to what, 300 division 1 teams or something, some silliness like that, and each one of those teams has upwards of 75 to 100 players, I think, that are on the roster at any given moment. So you've got such an enormous talent pool that gets lost in that sport.
Yeah.
College hockey, college basketball, basketball I think even has less players than college hockey, but college hockey it's 23 active players on a given night, maybe 20. It's either 20 or it's somewhere between 20 and 23, I think. Active roster spots on a given game night. You
Right. Yeah.
might you might have 27 to 30 on the average team, and
Hmm.
there's 60, 65, 66 Division 1 NCAA tournament eligible. Well, not eligible at the moment, but there's 65 Division 1 teams. So 65 times 30, you're shrinking down that number, and yeah, there's still 300 players in or there's going to be over 300 players in the portal. There's definitely not going to be and you have freshmen coming in who want to come in and play and earn ice time and compete with all those same dudes. Like, the number of spots and the number of players are not equal to each other, and someone's going to lose out. And again, it's that risk reward, and a lot of people are saying that, like, well, the big teams are stealing all the talent from the small uh conference teams. And you don't really hear a lot of that complaining going on in the football side of the world. You know, how many guys transfer out of like MAC schools to SEC schools or to Big Ten schools? You know, there's a lot of movement around in the college hockey world. There's guys going from the NCHC to the CCHA. There's guys from Hockey East going to the Big Ten, from Big Ten to the NCHC, um, from the Atlantic to where an independent school. Like there's it's so much more fluid because there is so fewer spots, and it's really hard to build a team to get into that top 16. Because even though percentage wise, a higher percentage of the college teams make the college hockey tournament, but there's a lower number of teams and the talent is more evenly spread out in college hockey and every team's fighting. I mean, that 116 seed game might have been the only game that was really like lopsided, and I think that was BU.
Is BC? Well, it wasn't.
BURIT. I think
Yeah.
was the 116.
Well, BU's was the 2 seed though. BC played.
Michigan Tech.
Yeah,
and that one
CCHA.
that was a super close game. I mean, that one. Well, I think it ended up being a little bit more lopsided.
Yeah, it was close until the end.
Yeah, but I think okay. So 215 BU and RIT was actually was pretty one lopsided. It was really the most lopsided game I think out there.
Yeah.
Omaha, Minnesota, that one was super close. It just kind of came down to the wire. Western Michigan and Michigan State went to overtime. North Dakota, Michigan was pretty close until the end. Michigan kind of pulled away a little bit. Maine, Cornell, I didn't watch any of. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was the one game I don't think I because we were driving, so I didn't see a minute of that game.
Yeah, Denver UMass was super good and super close.
Yeah, double OT. I mean,
so
yeah, basically every game was 1 or 2 goals, or at least close until the end.
Yeah, and I think even Denver Cornell was close.
It was 2-1.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's the reason why the NCAA college hockey tournament is so much fun every year, because it is so tight talent wise. The parity is definitely there. Now, when you break it down and you get to like the conference level, yes, there are teams that have been on the short end of the stick in conference play over the last few years, Miami being one of them. Colorado College has kind of been on that lower end for a few years. They've started to turn it around here. There's teams out east that struggle in conference play. Michigan State had struggled the last few years in the Big Ten. This year they win the regular season and the conference tournament, and played well in the big tournaments. I mean, it's so fluid and dynamic, but there are patterns that you can be seen.
Well, and if you just look at the final standings of the CCHA, like 1st and 8th was like 5 points. So that was like the like most even of any of the conferences, and they only got their automatic bid.
Yeah.
In the tournament.
Well, I mean, even the NCHC was pretty close, and hell, Western made the tournament, and 2 teams above us didn't. We were the 5th place team in the conference, but we made it, and St. Cloud State and Colorado College, both above us in conference standings, did not make the tournament.
Yep, and I mean, we were 8 points back of 1st and 5th.
Yeah,
and I mean, yeah, it's just a lot closer.
Or we were 6th, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but either way, two of the teams ahead of us didn't make the tournament, and we had 4 teams in.
That's something I didn't realize. Yeah, 3 and 4 didn't make the tournament.
I mean, they had what hurt them was their overtime play. The fact that they had gone to overtime that many times, and yes, they won, but Western won a lot more regulation games than Colorado College or St. Cloud did. The one thing that Mayotte brought up in one of his things complaining about the pairwise was like, Western Michigan was on the road and went 1-2. Colorado College was home and went 1-2, except the fact that Colorado College won an overtime game at home. Western Michigan won in regulation on the road. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's the thing is too in the playoffs. It doesn't matter. Like you get full credit for a win in overtime, but you were at home. That's the thing that mattered. Is Western was on the road in regulation on the road.
yeah.
CC was in overtime at home. So, I mean, it was there's those couple things. I mean, the difference between Omaha and CC, I feel like, is the overtime play too. I mean,
Yeah.
we were 5-0 in overtime, and had 3 ties, which in the pairwise. So I mean,
I think the pairwise still views it as it's not a complete win for an overtime win. So had Colorado College won in regulation, they would have got full credit for the win, but because they won it in overtime, they got that like 0.66% of a win or whatever it is.
no,
Because the playoffs are considered non-conference games.
yeah, I don't
either,
get it, but
but either
still, I mean, it was just
And I mean, Colorado College also decided that they wanted to go, I think, 7-3 as far as home games and road games in non-conference play.
mhm.
If you're stacking up your non-conference schedule to play at home, you're hurting yourself down the road. And I think that was part of what we saw. What was it last year with Omaha? Like Omaha kind of has a tendency to do that too. I think like last year you guys played like 8 of your non-conference games at home. I think you had one
But
road non-conference series last year.
this season we started with 8 at home, and
Yeah.
it was all or 3 of the 4 were non-conference.
Yeah. So, but you guys also did schedule a much better non-conference schedule. I think the last couple of years it's been a little bit soft, and you've used that leverage of being the bigger school to bring guys to home ice to kind of take advantage of home ice. But
Yeah, it
and,
definitely helped this year too because sweeping Niagara obviously was the difference last year, but Niagara also in the postseason was able to win a few games and get like to their semifinals. The Ohio State series at home for Omaha was a bit of a letdown with a loss and a regulation loss and a tie. But Ohio State was able to also in the postseason get to the semifinal and beat Wisconsin. So that also helped us a little bit there at the end of the season. Thankfully, we were able to help ourselves by finishing 9-1-2. But still, that's those couple things that were able to kind of help us in the end is those comparisons.
then I think we'll wrap up after this one. But Miami does sign a new head coach. They get Anthony Noreen, I believe is his name. He played at Wisconsin Stevens Point, I believe. Yeah, Anthony Noreen. So he is only the second coach at an NCHC school that did not previously play at a school that is currently in the NCHC. The other one being Colorado College's Mayotte. He played at Union. Teams that actually their coach played at the school they're currently coaching, Denver. With Carl, he played probably the most recently out of everybody at the school that he's coaching at. Western Michigan, Pat Ferschweiler played actually at 2 schools that are currently in the NCHC, but the majority of his crew was played at Western Michigan. Incoming conference opponent, Arizona State. Their coach, Greg Powers, played at Arizona State and then transitioned to being an assistant coach, the head coach, while they were still in Division 2 or 3, and then made the jump up to Division 1. Brad Berry played at UND. Your coach, Mike Kaepernick, played at Omaha. And then St. Cloud and Minnesota Duluth have coaches that played at schools currently in the conference, but not the ones they're currently coaching at. Scott Sandlin, coach of UMD, actually played at North Dakota, and head coach Brett Larson of St. Cloud State played his college hockey at Minnesota Duluth. So,
Mhm.
of
Did you see
the
Miami's new coach? His first recruit is someone that he coached at Tri City.
yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
He was previously committed somewhere else and uncommitted to go to Miami, and I think that's how you get a lot of those first class guys. Like even when the coach from Minnesota State left this last offseason to go to
Mhm.
Wisconsin, a lot of the players left Minnesota State to go to Wisconsin to continue to play for him. Um, it's kind of similar when you see a college coach go to the NHL. Like they'll draft a lot of players they had in the college ranks, or like they'll know the draft class for that first year coming
Oh
out
yeah.
really, really well because it's guys they were just currently coaching against or coaching and playing, getting film on and watching every week. So no, it makes sense that his first recruit would be someone that he was currently, just previously coaching.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm hoping that Miami gets some stuff going. I hope they continue to lose to Western because that's always fun beating your rival.
I hope
But
they don't get too good, but I hope they get better.
yes, yes, get help us to help you help us. Okay,
Yeah.
you get better so that we can get better, and then we'll both be better. But you'll still
You
be
could have
worse than
gotten
us,
I'm sure you could have gotten CC in the tournament if you had just won a couple more games in the NCHC.
right? Uh, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to next. I'm already looking forward to next season. Looking forward to playing Omaha a little bit more often, maybe, I guess.
Yeah.
Those games are always tight and close, and they're always so much fun. But at the same time, like I freaking hate playing you guys.
Yeah,
Um,
they're usually pretty tight.
but I look forward to that rivalry growing. I do want to make a trip to Omaha in the next couple of seasons. And see Baxter Arena. I'm thinking about maybe going back to Miami to take, make that the first road trip for the little one because it's not a time change. It's not as hefty in the car. I mean, it's a 4.5 hour drive, but
It's not bad.
it's not a plane. I don't have to worry about her making other people feel awful because she feels awful, and there's nothing I can do about it. Um, it's a route it's a spot I've already been to, so I know how what the travel is going to be like. Again, it's not a new time zone that's like going to mess with her sleep schedule. Because that's why she didn't go to the St. Cloud series, and that's why I went to the regional by myself because I'm not
Mm.
putting her through that being up way later than usual, and stuck in the car for that long. So we'll try and build her up to some longer road trips here, and some flights later on, but definitely, I think Omaha is probably going to be the last car trip school that we hit. I think everything else outside of that's kind of a little too far to road trip it.
It's like what, 10 hours, 11 hours? I want to say. I looked it up a couple years ago because it was I think the last time we played at Western for the quarterfinals that I looked it up. I think,
It
but
is. That's only 9 hours and 4 minutes.
that's not bad. It's a drive to Denver for us.
Yeah, I'm not doing no 18, 20 hours in the car through all of Nebraska ever again.
Yeah, it's not fun.
No, Nebraska's the worst state to drive through.
Uh,
Western Nebraska
I
is trash. I hate
I
your
would
state.
I would argue driving through South Dakota from Sioux Falls west to Rapid City, that was also pretty bad.
It is flat. There is nothing to look at. The radio stations suck. Cell phone service is garbage if it exists at all. Uh, there's not even anyone driving like a jackass to try and keep you awake. Um, if you're not chugging Monster, Red Bull, and coffee mixed together, you're just asking to fall asleep and wake up in a ditch.
It is pretty
Worst
bad.
worst state ever to. I'm talking about strictly just like to drive through. It is the worst state of other human beings that are driving that I have ever driven in is California. And that's also because their highway system sucks.
Yeah.
Let's make a highway system that doesn't have any state that has a highway system that does not have exit numbers should not be allowed to have a highway system. If your exits are just Carl Street or Lake Avenue, well, you can go drive your car into a lake because I don't know how far I am from Lake Avenue if I'm on Carl Street. But I know that if I'm at exit 117 and I've got to get to 130, then I'm like 13 miles away. And I can kind of plan around who I'm driving around. Okay. Stupid California.
Yikes.
But, those are personal problems that I have and issues that I'm working on slowly but surely, not at all.
Yeah, I would say driving through Nebraska, and then at least driving through Nebraska, you've got like Grand Island, a bunch of different big cities that you at least have like checkpoints. Like driving through, we went to Rapid City when we were in college about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago. We went to Rapid City to see some former players play, and that was the most boring thing I think I've ever done, because the first like 300 miles is just every billboard is for Wall Drug. And then once you get past Wall Drug, there's nothing. And then all of a sudden you're in Rapid City and it's like, oh, there's something here.
I worked for a moving company and I drove from Traverse City, Michigan, which is up near the top of the Lower Peninsula, to where was it? It's in Colorado. Fort Collins, Colorado. Yeah. 3 days in a box truck with one other human being, 3 cell phones, none of them worked on the west side of Nebraska for the entire day, to the point that when we got to the hotel and we finally called in to be like, hey, we're shutting her down for the day because we've driven our allotted number of miles, we got reamed because we didn't get like call in more often, or like they couldn't get a hold of us for something. We're like, well, first off, we're a day and a half away from town, so it's not like we're helping anybody else finish their move, first off. Second, we just got cell phone service and it's half a bar, and I'm like standing in the doorway of the truck trying to get as high as humanly possible to call you and tell you that we have found the shadiest of shady hotels to spend the night in. So suck it. Because our personal phones didn't have service. The work phone didn't have service. We're just sitting there like, who do we talk to and how do we talk to them? We're going to send smoke signals out here. Something. But, no, great time. Love it. Can't wait to do it again. And never.
Yeah, so I'm glad we're going to Colorado in a couple of weeks. I'm glad we're flying this time. It's our little one's first flight. So
that should be fun and interesting.
Should be. It's only an hour in the air, so I'm hoping we can turn on a movie and relax for a little bit, and then
yeah. The worst thing is just the adjusting to the pressures and stuff. Like my first flight, I was deaf when I hit the ground for 3 hours. I couldn't hear anything because I couldn't get my head to even out. Mm-hmm. Like that's what makes kids the most. I assume that's what makes kids the most uncomfortable, and then they can't tell you what's going on, and you can't give them the little hints and tips, and make them yawn 85 times to get them to be comfortable. So I do not envy you, good sir. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it should be interesting, but gotta happen sometime. We gotta get out of the way and get the first one out of the way.
Right.
But yeah, I've flown sick. Like maybe not, I was sick, but like at the same time, like just a stuffy nose, and it's the worst thing in the world because then your ears fill up with all your. It's not fun. No. I flew to Vegas a couple years ago, and I was a little sick, and I could not hear out of one of my ears for the first day because of how full it got of everything, and I was like, this is awful. I never want to do this again.
Yeah, no, my first flight, I couldn't hear out of either ear for the first 3 hours I was on the ground. and then the second time it like started progressively going down. I think in Vegas I was actually like moderately all right, but it might have been like the first half hour that I was just like, what? What'd you say? Just felt like I was underwater for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up there now that we're just getting into the weeds. I appreciate you coming on kind of short notice. Michael was doing, like I said, work life stuff because he wanted to actually make money doing something tonight instead of hanging out for free. So I'm sure there'll be a lot more news coming out. Definitely follow all your normal places that you follow hockey stuff because they know people to talk to, and we don't. We just make up stuff as we go along and use their information to better our arguments. Oh, last thing, I guess the NCHC Play of the Year tournament is the big video is up on the website, um, on nchc.tv or .com, whatever it is. So check that out. I think the voting starts tomorrow for that, with their little regional brackets. But other than that, not much else to say. There's some, normal YouTube stuff. There's a like, share, subscribe buttons down there. There's a dislike button. If you really didn't like what you saw, you can hit that button. It's cool. I don't really pay attention to them all that much. In fact, usually I'm the only one who likes the video anyway. So if you dislike it, you're just canceling out my like, and that's okay with me. There's a comment section down there. You could put some stuff in there. I'll see it eventually. Our personal Twitter handles have been under our pictures the whole time. In fact, I upgraded Brent's to say Brent at OMAV Hockey Fan because he's here and Michael's not. Michael can suck it. He gets no credit today. Mine's been there too, but mine's always the same. It's at Painted Bronco on the Twitters. There's a Gmail account for Goal Horns and Fight Songs. It's goalhornsandfightsongs@gmail.com. All the words, all the letters squished together into one big long line of letters, kind of like the new goaltender for North Dakota's last name. Whole bunch of letters all together.
It's like 3 last names.
Yeah, all at once. There is a Twitter handle for Goal Horns and Fight Songs. It's missing the O's in certain spots, so definitely make sure to check that out. It's going to be scrolling. It's been scrolling at the bottom of your screen. It's about to come by again. I'm not going to read it out for you because you have eyeballs, and there it goes. It starts there and ends there. Okay, so that's the at handle for the show. Do stuff on those if you feel like it, or don't. I don't care. I did send a tweet out that we're looking for somebody from Colorado College to come and maybe let me talk about the happenings going on out there. So if you see that post and you want to spread it along to maybe get a Tiger fan on here and chat with them about all 85 guys they currently have in the transfer portal because they can't keep their seniors for a 5th year, that'd be fun. Working on some guests for the off season. We don't have an exact date yet, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway and make the announcement that we're working on getting head coach Greg Powers from Arizona State on the show. I'm going to try and potentially get our favorite guest, Trevor Gorsuch, back on the show here in the off season once he finishes up his ECHL season. Pretty sure this fine gentleman will be back at some point in the off season when we maybe, you know what? We're going to have you back when we talk about the Omaha roster and the schedule. So that'll probably be, you'll probably be on before that because sometimes Michael's not here. And maybe
I'm just happy because we know where we're starting the season, and that is in Vegas, baby. That's what I'm looking for.
Sweet. I don't know. Maybe one night I'll just let you and Michael run, and I'll just set it up and then go away, and be sick somewhere. So, but until then, I greatly appreciate you coming on. I enjoy our chats. You have become a fan of the show and a fan of a friend of Michael and I.
Absolutely.
And you've made Omaha slightly more tolerable. I don't dislike them as much as I used to.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Still dislike you.
Oh yeah, I have become a little bit more of a fan of Western, but
so, when that rivalry lights up, it's going to be, well, screw you guys and your team. And then after it's like, it was a good game, guys. Good game. Yeah. All right. Until the next episode, we're gone. Deuces.